I think that if anybody should be frightened at this time, it's the people of Alabama, especially when their United States Senate, as was done in 2017, was dictated out of Washington, D.C. I think something all the press knows, without a doubt, is that Washington, D.C. does not like me. They don't want somebody that will not follow their agenda and will oppose the establishment. You know, I'm tired of seeing politics as usual in this state, of politicians saying one thing and they go to office and they do quite another. And I've seen this both in state and federal politics. You take, for example, the gas tax that was passed recently. You see, the people of Alabama didn't want a gas tax. How many times are the people running for Senate or House or anything else ask about this gas tax that was passed by a Republican administration in Alabama? We see this the same thing in Washington. The people get elected, they go to Washington to do their job, and they run on the basis that they oppose abortion. First thing they do, they've been giving $500 million a year to Planned Parenthood for abortion. It's wrong. And it happens whether it's health care. We've seen the Obamacare fail in this state and in this nation. They say they're going to do something about it. They don't do anything about it. The national debt is now $21 trillion. And we've seen every politician that runs for office say we're going to watch the national debt. And what do? They go up there and they increase it every year. And it's senseless. I'm reminded of something Washington said in his farewell address: we ungenerously throw upon our posterity the burden which we ourselves ought to bear. We're doing exactly the opposite of what the first president said we should do about the national debt. Gun rights. We see gun rights always is at the top of the level for Republican administrations. We do support guns in the Second Amendment. But what do? We've passed laws up there in Republican and Democrat on red flag. And that's simply a way to take away your guns. I'm tired of government. I'm tired of the judges creating new laws, creating new rights, and taking away our rights, the rights of religious liberty. We're forcing now gender education on our children in our schools. Out in California, they're doing as young as 4 years old. Religious liberty is, thankfully, they've stalled the equality bill, but many, even Republicans, supported an equality bill, which would certainly take away religious liberty. But I think the thing I'd like to say on this Halloween is we've taken God out of everything we've done in our society, and then wonder why people killing each other on the streets, people killing each other. As you've seen here, and I mentioned the two young ladies most recently in the news, we're under assault. And I think we've got to do something about it by sending somebody to Washington that will do something about it.
Be effective?
Sir?
Do you feel that you could be effective as a senator?
I think you're always effective if you stand up for the truth. And you stand up about the Constitution and you let the truth be known. I think it does have effect. Take, for example, the Ten Commandments, okay? We stood up for the truth about the Ten Commandments at the Supreme Court of Alabama. And what happened? I got removed, yes, but years later we passed a law in Alabama about the Ten Commandments, and they're still back at the forefront. And what's needed most in our country right now is the knowledge that we're all created equal in the eyes of God, and we should love our fellow man. We should treat our fellow man with kindness, and virtue and morality is very important. That's the basis of our morality, is the Ten Commandments. The crimes we see committed now affects us all, whether it's black, white, anybody. It affects us. Our society is being rendered incapable by people killing each other, committing crimes. It affects us all. Immorality enters into the court system, into the legal system, to the churches. It affects our political system. I think we need to get back to an understanding that God is the basis of our morals. Reason and experience, Washington said, both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principle. That was a statement he made in the farewell address to this nation. And it's true. Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious liberty. We are forgetting God, and we're suffering the consequences, and we need to get back to such things as that.
Will you be able to get anything passed? I mean, you said the status quo is the way things are operating now.
Well, the status quo, the way it's operating now, nothing's getting passed anyway. As I mentioned earlier, you know, the things that we need to address health care in a real meaningful manner and repeal Obamacare. We need to get back to legislation that benefits our country, like, you know, equalizing trade with foreign nations like China. We need to look at what's being done in the foreign policy area. I think there's a lot could be done.
Repeal it and replace it with what? I mean, there are a lot of people who depend on it, health care and health insurance. So what do you replace it with?
Well, it's hurt businesses. A lot of businesses have canceled health insurance for their people because of Obamacare. They can't keep up with these things. The costs are rising, and the government is hurting financially because of this. I think it takes away from the relationship between the doctor and the patient. And I think Republicans were, in the past, standing against Obamacare. There's several cases now declaring it unconstitutional. We're seeing in courts. And I think that needs to go to the United States Supreme Court, and we're working on that. But I think Congress can address those problems.
You were asked earlier about the last campaign and the things that were brought up against you. Are you concerned that those will resurface?
I don't see, you know, in a campaign nowadays, you see things resurface as they did last time, 32 days before the election. Since then, we've heard nothing from these people. I can't get to question them. I've got cases filed against them, and we're going to treat it like it is. It's complete false and malicious, and we're not going to pay attention to it. Everybody, I think, in Alabama has seen what went on and realized that this was all false. So, you know, we're going to address the issues.
You said you said they don't want you there on Capitol Hill.
Well, I think it's no secret that they don't.
Will you, what type of, I guess, pushback will you receive? Are you expecting this time?
Well, I think that they still don't want me, and it's been voiced from the Washington establishment, and I think that's the exact reason people should vote for you. You know, if Washington doesn't want you, there's a reason for it. That's because they're avoiding addressing issues to keep their job, to keep their position, keep their power, and somebody has got to stand up and tell the truth. They don't want the truth in Washington. They want to go along their merry way and keep it a rivalry between the Democrats and Republicans and not do anything that really affects our country. For example, we need to address the United Nations. Why do we have a UN posture in our country that contradicts everything we stand for? Contradicts our abortion. They're for abortion. They're for open borders. They've made this very clear. They're environmentalists that get out and protest, funded by the United Nations. We need to get back and get them, quit funding them. For one thing, we're the major funders, and yet China has more influence in the United Nations than we do. We don't need the United Nations, and I think that's the issue that we need to. I think Thomas Massey of Kentucky has already introduced a bill in the House. I think the Senate needs to follow up. We need to get rid of them.
Judge, last time you won the majority of the white vote handily, but by some exit polling, you lost 96% of the black vote. By some math, if you'd had 9% black support, you would be the senator today. What are you going to do differently to reach out to black Alabamians?
I think just what I stand for. I think the things that I stand for benefit the blacks as much as the whites. And I think that people, I've had more people come up to me from the black community than I have the white community. I don't understand why the vote came out differently. There were a lot of things that done that I won't go into. We filed a case against it and then dropped it because we didn't have money to pursue it. But I trust that the black people as well as the white people recognize what went on last time.